Can y'all hear me? Rock on. How's the mic? They say I'll be clipping or something. Anyway, just another panel, another hangout, doing the thing we do here. Um, Daniel Barry, hello, hello. I don't know how you must see us right when we come up. Good way to start a stream. I guess I'll look at the news. Tropical storm threatens the Caribbean. Okay, nothing new. Um, I don't think I looked earlier. I didn't see a lot of people streaming. Let's see if anybody might have fired it up. I don't know. Was Talcott going today? Maybe not. I-Fi playing video games. So there you have it. Those are your options. Ooh. Ow. Why is that coffee so hot? Hang on. I think I might be coming down with something. All right. So, I had kind of a topic. Let me think of it. Was it expanding on some of the things we talked about today? Was it about male, female, energy, gender, philosophy? I don't remember it. Fuck. Well, I'm always happy to take any topics you suggest. It was a conversation I wanted to have with the AI. I almost titled the stream Ego. That was it. Ego. All right, I remembered. I wanted to have a conversation with the AI about ego. So let's get that started. Unless somebody wants to come on and talk. Where's my chats? Gemini. um, how can I asked it what the ego is, and then I'm asking what does it mean to be egoic? How can one overcome their ego, if that's the word? I don't think you can. Or develop intellectual humility. Let's see what the AI has to tell us about that. We'll get some tips from the AI. To be ego, well, first of all, the ego itself, it gives actually Freud's theory is not going to be helpful because we're talking about the ego. It's helpful in the sense of ego is created out of defense, but not helpful in the way that the AI is explaining it. So to be egoic is to be overly identified with one's self-image or ego. But what else are you supposed to identify with? Like, that is identity. I'm already confused, and they have that in bold. Let me just read on. It's when the ego becomes the center of attention, overshadowing other perspectives and values. But that's all part of the ego. Egoic behavior often manifests as defensiveness, difficulty accepting criticism or feedback. I have that I do have that sometimes when I feel like I'm under attack. That's the best way I could describe it. Or unfairly under attack. Because if the criticism is legit from a trusted source, somebody whose opinion I value, etc., I can accept criticism. In fact, I value. I don't get enough feedback. I feel like I'm moving through life blind. I have no idea what. Because part of the problem is every single person gives different feedback. There's no like one feedback that you just know applies to all people. So I don't have time to adjust to what this person wants, this person wants, this person wants, it's just easier to be myself. And then if there's criticism of it, I'll just deal with it when it happens. But sometimes when the criticism is about things I can't change or control or feels unfair, yeah, there is defensiveness. Ooh, here's another one, arrogance. Overestimating one's abilities or importance. That's hard to estimate a lot, especially importance. That's so subjective. I have no idea what my importance is. No clue. I'm like a worm on the bottom of the shoe of humanity or existence, and at the same time, I feel like in the areas that I'm good at, I do pretty good work. I'm confident in the things I know I can bring to life or civilization. So maybe sometimes confidence is arrogance, but I've never thought of myself as arrogant. I don't think I know more than other people. I don't think I'm better than other people. But sometimes I do. Sometimes I do know more than other people. I take that back. I'm not consciously arrogant or meaning to be arrogant. It's a situation that's created by a knowledge gap or an information gap or something. Um, I don't know. I've been called that before. Grandiosity, exaggerating achievements or possessions. I don't think I exaggerate. Like the things I say that I did. Like I said, I did them. I have the certificates or photographs or whatever receipts to prove it. And I definitely don't exaggerate about my possessions. I live very humbly. I always have. I grew up rustic. Um, I'm not. Cajuns are not a proud. They're not a pretentious people. We live very simply and like close to the land. Need for validation, constantly seeking external approval. I definitely don't do that. I'm so indifferent. I don't even notice external approval half the time. You saw me today try to take compliments. I even when external approval is, I'm not seeking it and it's coming to me unsought. I have difficulty with it. So I definitely don't go seek it out. Um, but it is nice. We talked about that identity construct of validation, validation, affirmation, affiliation, and affinity. So I think validation, like the the validation plays a role. It plays a role in our social development. It plays a role in our understanding of ourselves. So I don't think a need for validation itself is necessarily pathological because we all have a need for validation. I think that's a very human need. I think maybe it's when it gets neurotic, or all this is tied to the ego anyway. So when it gets to be a means of reinforcing your ego, which in narcissism that's called narcissistic supply (NS). Inflexibility. I've been accused of this a lot, but guess what? So do a lot of autistic people. You hear the word rigidity come up a lot. My boss used to use that. And I used to try to explain that that's shows up in the autism community a lot. That sense of being rigid, and that she had it herself. It's resistance to change or new ideas. The resistance to change is a known feature of autism. We don't do cognitively. We have to like reprogram and rewire our brain, and it's just harder for us, for some of us, than other people. And I liken it to like turning a barge around in a river or like one of those big oil tankers. That's how hard it is for me to change where my brain is going, where my brain's locked into. And if I have to change it to something else, it is a huge mental effort. Where it seems like neurotypicals have like a little speedboat, and they can just whoop, 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 just roll and just adjust. And I definitely don't have that. I do get very locked into because I'm convinced that, being a pragmatic solipsist, I'm convinced that I'm seeing reality as accurately as it's possible for me to see. This is the only reality I have. So I get pretty entrenched in that. But I love new ideas. I resist new ideas at all. I love hearing about new ideas. Some of them are kind of wild to me, and has me concerned about mental well-being in some people. But I still like listening to them sometimes if they're not too crazy. Um, okay, let me check comments real quick. Oh, hey, Browns boy, you got a lake house. Wait, what? Oh, wow, you're on a lake house. External cages. You're at a lake house on an island right now. I can't wait to see this. Hey, Kane. Hey, Kane. Acceleration is there. Okay, whatever you're talking about already has me excited. I can't wait to see it. Um, okay, now we come with overcoming the ego and developing intellectual humility. This is the wisdom I seek. Overcoming the ego and cultivating intellectual humility is a journey, not a destination. Here are some strategies. Oh God, it's like working out or bodybuilding or mental health care. It happens over time, like sustained practice and discipline. I'm not good at that, except for the mental health part. Number one, self awareness. Recognize when your ego is driving your actions. I was going to talk about the ego and the id, but I don't want to confuse things too much. To me, the ego is always driving my actions, at least my conscious actions. Anything I'm conscious of, I associate the two together. But like anything that makes its way into my consciousness is in the sphere of my ego, and so um, everything I intentionally and consciously do, there's an egoic component behind it. I just think that's so fundamental. It seems like that's true for everybody. Mindfulness. This hurts even just to read. Practice being present and observing your thoughts without judgment. I think I'm pretty good at I'm constantly aware of my thoughts. I have many different thought trains going at any given time, and I'm pretty good at just following them without judgment. Because I don't like just like emotions. I don't stigmatize emotions. I don't think they're a bad thing. They just come up from the body. They're natural. I think thoughts are the same way. I don't choose where my thoughts. They just show up, and so I don't take them personally. Just like I don't take my emotions personally. I don't think they say anything morally about me because I'm having an emotion or a particular emotion. It's what you do with the emotion or response to the emotion or with the thought or in response to the thought. That 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 personal agency, that locus of control, that little window of self-determination that you have to operate in. Open-mindedness. I think I am, and I took that Big Five test, and I think I scored pretty decent in openness. I forgot what the two subcategories were. Be receptive to different perspectives and willing to change your mind. Hey, guys, listen, I'm easy. Anybody that can rationally or logically convince me of anything, I'm sold. Like, it's just use logic. Just give me very concrete, rational reasons to adopt a belief, and I'll do it. I bow to logic. I am humble before reason. At the same time, I'm learning about myself. I make a lot of mistakes in when it comes to people and perceiving. My sense of reality about other human beings is so off. It's not calibrated at all. Active listening, focus on understanding others' viewpoints before responding. I think I do pretty good at this. So if that's an example of overcoming the ego, I think that's one area where I do kind of keep my ego out of the way because I want to understand what the other person's saying and I want the focus to be on them and their story. Ask for honest feedback from trusted individuals. Ah, ha ha ha. Who are those individuals? Oh yeah, I know what that's like. Oh, hey, Axis. I'll bring you on in just a sec. I'll finish going over these ego tips, and then you might have something to say on it too. Kane, I know exactly what that's like. Mine too. I didn't know it was called ADHD. That was just normal mind. I just thought that was normal thinking, like just being a conscious person, that your mind is always thinking about things. Um, the the honest feedback from trusted individuals. This is where I'm in danger. This is where I go astray. I don't know who those trusted individuals are, and I always end up trusting the wrong individuals. So, which means I can't trust their feedback. And Steve was on earlier today, and he talked about this group of men that he's built in his life that he can rely on to turn to for feedback and accountability and support and all of that. And as he was talking, I'm like, yeah, I have a support system. I've always had that. Like I've had that to turn to when I need it. And then I started thinking about it, and I realized that currently, right now, there's really no men on it. It's all gay men and women. There's men, but there's gay men and women. I don't have another male in my life that I can turn to and process this stuff with. And I was part of the Mankind Project for a while, and I guess there were opportunities there, and it did happen a little bit on some level. Um, but that kind of, I don't know, drifted. I don't know, it just has me thinking. My support system is not as robust in meeting my needs as I thought it was, just because it was so stable. It's like the same set of individuals over the years that I've just built this trust with, that I can rely on. And I need honest, like very blunt, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings, I could take it feedback. You really have to hammer it into my skull. Neon, glow in the dark, highlight, marker that you can see from outer space. That's how retarded I am about understanding these things. Real quick, embrace failure. Yeah, and that goes along with perfectionism too. View mistakes as learning opportunities, not personal failures. There's also the freedom to fail, like making it okay to fail, because it's experimental and you learn from it. You learn from failure anyway. Cultivate gratitude. I'm trying to get better at this, and appreciation. Focus on what you have rather than what you lack. Practice empathy. Try to understand the feelings and experiences of others. And here's where I think I do really well, if this is an antidote to the ego: continuous learning. Stay curious and seek knowledge throughout your life. Remember, intellectual humility isn't about denying your intelligence or accomplishments. It's about recognizing the limitations of your knowledge. I do that every day on here. That's epistemology. I'm a limitations of knowledge geek, and being open to learning from others. It's a powerful tool for personal growth and building stronger relationships. Speaking of being open to learning from others, I'm going to bring on Mr. Axis Ratblood. We have Lanza in the back too, Brown's boy. I don't know how the two of you get on, but Lanza, I'm going to
It
leave you
doesn't.
backstage for a little bit and let Axis and I get a conversation going, and then I'll bring you on at some point if that's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just fine. So I'm gonna.
Oh, hang on.
Um,
I'm having a little hard time understanding you.
can you hear me now, or do I need to turn my mic up?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Um, there's a point where the revelation of the true self either is going to be brought forth from shame, and understanding that shame is something that you're going to have to either keep in the closet, or you're going to have to confront it. And it's one of the most powerful emotions that you will ever go up against. Now, as far as religions go, and a choice of religions, I'm an omniist. I observe all religions, all philosophies, all states of ideals, and I utilize from that the best that I can for things that benefit me through my life journey. And as far as a higher sense of power, I think that whatever created me and all that we are is beyond the concept of a religion or confined to a book or a set of rituals. And all these various religions have something good to offer, and they also have something less than good to offer. It's for you to decide what from all these different philosophies and religions and indoctrinations is useful for your life journey. But then there's a practicality point where you have to take an inward journey. And when I did this, and I started really coming to terms with myself as a created being, I found that there was unorthodox or kind of alternative manners of reaching a healing from the infantile state all the way up to present state. And I'm fortunate enough that when I regress to take care of issues that weren't addressed from my younger and the learned years, which I was deprived of, I'm fortunate enough I've got what is called a mom, and she's a psychiatric trained, and she does age regression with me, and I go back and I can address those things that we try to mask with masculinity. Those vulnerable spots or those mommy or daddy issues that are prevalent in a lot of people. But that requires facing humility and shame, because people are going to shame you for it out of ignorance. And humbling yourself to it is something that you have to take on internally, and you have to surrender to that humility, or otherwise you're just going to mask it with an over exaggerated sense of feminine or masculine, instead of going into the inner child, even the adolescent years, the adult, to the mid-age years, and addressing each and every shortcoming and trauma that you experienced, and give it a new understanding, a sense of renewal. So for me, what I found that works is, as long as I'm continue forward motion with my development, my insight, and my observations and ability to expand, I also have to address the human part of me. And that part of me is damaged and has been, but it's getting better and better as I address it. Because I was in the music industry, I was into debauchery, I was into Essendon and bondage. I was into, we had I had a poly wife in our marriage. Just every extreme possible, and every facet of anything to feel good, to alleviate the pain. And then when all that was kind of removed, I was left with a lot of open wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and I started addressing them. And at first I was really off-put, especially by age regression, because some stigmatas of that are not healthy. But the approach to it as a mental health healing is very healthy. It's just not widely accepted or understood. And I was able to face that shame of regressing back to address those issues that were still caught up in me, that I was still internalizingly trying to address, that had no outlet for. And as I developed an understanding for age regression and adolescent um, recognition of, you know, like addressing the teenage years where you feel the awkward abandonment or the displacement of yourself not fitting in, or, you know, being picked on or whatever, and relive those with a positive aspect, with those in retrospect, but healing the the personification of them within you and letting go of them. And once you start letting go of them through addressing them, whether you're using age regression, or you're taking yourself back to an adolescent state of interaction with maybe toys, a video game, um, jump rope, you know, climb a tree, relive those experiences with a positive notion. And it allows you to release that within you that you're battling with, because it comes to the surface and you can confront it.
Hmm.
But most people have buried themselves under either the masculine or the feminine so heavy to bury those wounds and those shortcomings and those hurts, that they overemphasize themselves, and so they start anything that they see that does not kind of correlate to their state of masculinity, they will make fun of, they will point out, and they will humiliate. But that's the measure of them, not you. That's where they stop. They can't grow past that, nor will they ever. But when you've learned to subside that, and no matter what ridicule or shame they try to cast on you, you're still moving forward, and you're still healing, developing, learning, and broadening your horizons. I don't know if that helps you out any
Oh,
on.
Axis, you don't know what you just touched. Um, yeah, it helps me out a lot. I do the same thing, like heal the past to heal the present. I work with memories a lot. I haven't found a way yet to like permanently let them go. They're always accessible again to be relived or spontaneously arise at times. But I don't know. I think I've certainly diminished the effect that they have on me, the negative ones at least. Maybe, I don't know. Because you're right. Every time you go back and re enter that space time, it's all there all over again, just like it happened like the first time.
Well,
So it never really go. They're kind of all eternal. They never really go away. At least in my brain.
I've went and out of the out of the pun of those who point fingers and try to produce shame upon someone, shame on you, because I do full body and uh, full, uh, I guess, interactive age regression. But like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a psychologist, a
You mean you
mom.
like act it out? You embody? It's not just you laying on the
Absolutely.
couch. Okay.
No, 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 no. I've got my baba, I got my blankie, got my binky, got my onesie, you know. And if I have to regress, I ain't shitting you, dude. And shame on anybody who tries to shame that,
Yeah.
because that was the only way that I was able to go back and deal with mass trauma that was affecting me and those around me in a very negative way. My inability to deal with my own hurt and shortcomings was bleeding out and causing people in my environment to suffer because I was suffering. And I knew
I,
that if I didn't do something about this, that it wasn't ever going to resolve itself. And it started out with just going back mentally, and then it developed into fully embodying that state. And then there's something that happens within you that the body recognizes and
Wow.
the body actually starts to re-experience that particular state or age.
Is this something that anybody can try on their own, or is it better to do it with another person that's trained in whatever happens
No, I
when you get in that
suggest
state?
that. No, I suggest if you're capable of it and you have the resources available, as long as you're comfortable facing yourself, and regardless of what others may say or think, and you want to endeavor solo, yes, 100%. Because there's times when I don't have, my psychologist, or my what I consider to be my surrogate mom or adult mom. Um, I'll embody myself into a age regressive state and just start doing age appropriate things to bring my anger levels down, my hostilities down, to address what part of my child is throwing a fit right now.
Yes.
Because exactly.
Oh, it's getting like
So
your body to get into that state, that through the memory of that state, to like
right,
react, reproduce that very state.
yeah. And whenever you're alone and you're having these feelings, let's say you open a coloring book and you just start scribbling. Well, you can identify what part of my child in me is not being, the needs aren't being met, or I'm feeling kind of resistant to, which is affecting my adulthood and the people around me. And then you can identify and pinpoint them, and you can see where the inner child is throwing a fit, or the teenage angst in you, that sense of not belonging or whatever. um, it immediately comes to the surface, and they can be addressed, and you can then realize exactly how much of not only your your infantile years all the way up to your fully developed, not that you're ever fully developed, but to your point where you're considered mature.
Hmm.
You can address any any state of that, and then to the benefit of those around you, you're able to deal with them without the hurt and the pain and the shortcomings and the ostracization and the shame that comes with it, that people will cast upon you.
Is it better to like start as early as you can and work forward, or do you just start at any point that addresses what
I
issue
started
you're trying to resolve?
from Yeah, I started from my very first infantile at 3 years old traumatic experience. Um, I was pushed off a porch, and a wine stem from a trash bag went through my lung and took out my right lung. And I didn't realize how much trauma at 3 years old that had caused me throughout my life, until I went back and actually addressed that and relived that situation, so that I could embody and heal myself from that point of neglect, which was parental neglect that caused that situation. And I was able to forgive. I was able to come to terms with the loss of a lung, and I was able to um, understand that the other child that opened the door that knocked me off the porch was not responsible. And all those wounds and shortcomings were healed. All that pain was subsided. But I had to regress back to that. I just couldn't sit at this age with that type of hurt and go, okay, I'm going to deal with it. No, you're not. You're going to maybe remember it, or you're going to add to it, but you're not going to resolve it.
Wow. Lanza, what's up? Are you at this island, this lake house thing?
I
Oh, you're
you
coming in
know.
very very faint.
Oh, how am I now?
Better.
I forgot to talk
Still a little
in
quiet, but better.
my human voice. Yeah, I'm pretty much to this little property. It's pretty cool. I'll
Are you in a
show you.
boat or are you driving?
No, I'm not in a. No, okay, no. So it's maybe like a 3 acre property, 2 acre,
Okay.
but it's got this massive lake for a 2 acre property. It's got a massive lake. And then in the middle, it's got this built out island. I have like sea bunkers and shit. And I'm cool with the owners and stuff. And I could probably just be like, could I check around for secret bunkers? And like, they'd be like, yeah, yeah, no problem, man. Go ahead, check around. For real though. They'd be like, let us know if you find anything. I'd be like, no, they let me metal detect their property. And they let me, what else? Oh, I found those Native American stone tools in the river. So yeah, but I'm like, I mean, technically, I could get myself there. Wait, no, wait, something has to happen. Maybe in
Well,
about like 20, whenever the last update was, whenever I said 45 minutes,
uh-huh.
that would be like the closest I could do to it.
So it's just like a little day outing.
Yeah, I gotta go do work there.
Oh,
I have to cut all the grass and wave at the people who don't speak English.
eh.
And no, just let them know I love them, even though we don't speak the same language, and then I try to help them.
You communicate all of that with a wave.
Huh?
You communicate all of that with a wave.
Dude, you can communicate things with what you wear, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you
so,
can.
like, that's why they hired me because I had like these. I need to find them again. They're these certain type of Indian beads, or like, uh, I don't know. It
Beat.
was like this big. It was like these nice bead necklace I had,
That's why they hired you.
and I drove by the house, and it was a really good house, and the people were like trying to cut this extremely large property with insanely under-equipped uh, equipment, and I was like, "Yo, I do this. I'm your neighbor. I'll hit you up on a deal."
And I have the beads.
Yeah, yeah. That was a good thing.
Do you
Uh, they showed me baby Shiva. Um,
is that a goat?
baby Shiva.
The Hindu deity.
That's what I was thinking, but then
That's what they showed
I
me.
pictured a goat for some reason. But what like a statue? They had a little statue of it in a
Yeah,
manger.
yeah. Yeah, the mother of the family
Oh, okay.
wanted to show me, make sure I
Okay.
saw
Do
baby
you have
Shiva.
any experience with anything Axis was talking about, like going back into your past or memories or shame and facing your emotions? Steve talked earlier this morning about how men have all this emotional like danger they carry around that they have to manage so it doesn't affect other people, and about not lying to ourselves about the traumas we've been through and our hurts and our wounds and our shame and all that. So any thoughts?
Um, I would say for right now, briefly, I would say the past is the past. Now is
Not burdened
now,
by what has been.
and like learn from your past, and that's what they. I don't know. don't have any profound like quote or anything. I try,
You do,
but I don't.
you do a lot of times. You
Well,
have
let
them.
me ask you this: did you have any serious trauma throughout your childhood, your teenage years, up to where you are now?
I'm sorry.
Did Did you have any severe trauma from your infantile years all the way up to your teenage years to the present time that
I'm,
you feel is
like that's a measurement that's hard for me to, what do you call it? Like, describe.
okay?
Trauma is different. Uh,
Yeah,
there's different types of whatever trauma, but to everyone, nobody escapes. Show me a trauma-free person. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I'm not really sure what you're asking.
How was your childhood? Like, are there things you're
Uh,
recovering from as an
I
adult
mean, it was
because of
pretty
it, or
good.
was it
Pretty
pretty
good. Pretty
okay?
good. It's pretty good.
cool. I unfortunately I dealt with a lot of trauma from, like I said, I lost my right lung at 3 years old. At 14 years old, I suffered massive head trauma and had to relearn a new, um, basically, identity and how to reuse my nervous system because it was damaged.
You're fading out a little bit, or coming in low.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you are.
Whenever, like I said, I lost a lung at 3 years old, and at 14, I suffered massive head trauma and had to relearn, basically an identity and how to get my nervous system to work again, functioning like walking and just general common everyday things. And I was the last incident that really took it over the edge was when I was stabbed 9 times, and that was uh, that was a very traumatic moment. So I go back and I relive these, but I encapsulate and embody them, and I didn't know if maybe that was something that might assist you, or you might actually even be doing.
Um, I think it helps with some of the stuff, like the earlier stuff. There's some adult trauma that it's going to be very hard to go back and. In fact, I've been dissociated for like 15 years. I don't haven't felt my body in forever. So there's something that my mind's protecting me from that I haven't been able to face yet as an adult, and I don't know if that's going to be possible to like go back and relive on my own,
Well,
at least.
maybe if you start from a younger perspective and what led to that, and deal with all the issues that led up to that point, it may take the stress and the pressure of dealing with that point, and it may reveal a lot of things that you've buried or masked over.
Yeah, it does, and it's a process. I do every little memory I work on. You get a little bit more each time, and it just builds up over time. The insight. Um,
Well,
but I don't know if it does anything for the release itself. Like you said, like you're gonna remember it, you're gonna think about it, but it's actually getting in the body where it is and getting it out of there.
that's where the encompassing of that, the full embodiment of that particular stage of your life is very important because your body remembers it. And when you recall it as a memory, it doesn't present itself physically. It's just a mental thing. But when you encapsulate and embody that particular age or that particular point in your life, your body starts to regress to
Yeah.
that point, and it actually encompasses and takes on that exact same state.
So it's regressing the body, not just the mind, not just the memory.
Right, right.
There's certain times of the year here, like around the fall, where the weather, there's a certain little chill and temperature and smell in the air. And when those days hit, it takes me back to the original time that I came up here. I first visited Seattle. I was first with this person, etc. And it takes me back to what you're talking about. But it happens with the this certain weather like sensation that happens a few days out of the year, and this smell that's in the air at the time takes me there. Those are the physical anchors, like triggers that can get my body in that state. So I have tasted a little something like what you're talking about.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I would still be, you know, basically a hurt child, an angry and defiant teen, and that would have bled over into what I am now, and it would have affected any and everyone around me. But instead, I was able to overcome that, and then I was able to move forward with my learning, my understanding, my development, removing safety protocols to broaden perspective, and I was able to health with health advance um, not only my intellect, my being, but my understanding and comprehension.
Do you ever stop being that angry child or whatever, that angry toddler? Is it always in there at the root?
No, now it's become a peaceful place to escape to. Whenever I find what I call the adulty world, which is bills and gas in the car and maintaining yourself,
So I've heard.
and and it becomes too much, then I will do an age regression and release all the stress and responsibility, whether it be for an hour or a day,
Oh,
and maybe break out some Legos or just anything to take me back and encompass, and I may embody that and alleviate all those responsibilities for just even a day. And it takes all that pressure, stress, and responsibility and allows you to deal with it with a fresh take, outlook, and perspective.
yeah. I can see that.
And I don't see anything wrong with it. I haven't seen anything wrong with it, and it's only been beneficial to me. And once you can get past the shame or the fact that somebody may ridicule you, that's their shortcoming. That's their inability to deal with themselves, and it shows the measure of them. That's where they stop. They can't grow beyond that, nor will they.
I know. Yeah, it's we, there's nothing you can do.
No, it's just
Everyone's
solo
at their
journey,
own
though.
level of development, I guess. You can't force it. You can't accelerate it.
Um, no, and but you don't have to allow them to infringe on your being. They're not in your head with you. They're not in your body with you. You are on a solo journey, and you just have people that are around you that may influence you, direct you, befriend you, become a lover, all these different stations. But in actuality, you are only relevant to you. To everyone else, there's a stipulation and there's a point where you will maybe approach them and they ostracize you because you ask too much of them, or their friendship only has a $25 limit. You know what I mean?
I do know what you
and
mean.
that's them, and screw them because they're not the one that wakes up in your body.
It still hurts when it happens.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course it hurts. But what I'm offering, or what I'm telling you about, is a way to cope with that without it becoming damaging to you.
And because even this reaction, even though it's present day, is tied to like past reactions that I can trace back if I go into my
Yeah,
memory. So this emotion is just the surface layer of an emotion that runs historically through my development, probably.
yeah, and it embeds itself into the body
Yeah.
because the body feels that if you lose a lover that you've been very close to and intimate with, the whole body suffers that loss,
Hmm.
not just the mind. And
I wasn't even
sometimes,
conscious. Like my mind faded out. I didn't even have a mind for I feel like a few days. It was my body was the only thing even getting me through on autopilot.
right, but now you can, if you choose to, you can assimilate that same scenario and release that trauma out of the body by addressing it. Whether you get, you know, a, a straw man to sit across from you, and you release all of that uh, regressed trauma towards an inanimate object, but while you're doing that, you personify that inanimate object as being that individual, and your body will react to that.
I know. That's part of the problem. I'm trying to not feel those reactions.
But don't you think maybe, and this is just speculation, do you think maybe that your inability to address, or your hesitation to, helps cause some of the anxiety that you suffer?
Um, I don't know how related they are. I don't really suffer from too much anxiety. That's not my main issue. But I do agree that not addressing it perpetuates whatever. But I have addressed it in many ways. It's been decades now. Um, I've done the grief, and so even if I were to go back to that moment, it wouldn't be as intense as all the other times I have because a lot of it has kind of been processed out. That particular memory, that trauma. So I think you do get to a point where you kind of get all the processing you're going to get out of a given memory.
What about um, safe places? Do you have um, mental
I'm
safe places?
I'm in it right now. You're in it with me. This is my safe place.
Okay,
You can
in
you
the
can
middle
see how
of
safe it is. No, I mean I pretty much live solo in my I have I live in my room. I don't have much of a social life, so I don't have any in-person ties or connections. I'm kind of a hermit. I'm like
right.
like half the rest of us on YouTube. We're shut-ins with no lives. That this is our outlet.
Okay, which is not the most healthy place to do it, but
I agree. I've been trying to get that Panoverse life balance, but it's hard. And the more time you spend in the Panoverse, the harder it is to connect with the outside world.
um, and what it does is it allows you to mask your true character with a personification. And a
Oh, you
lot
mean
of
online?
people,
Because you can
oh
create
yeah,
a person. Yeah, I'm
yes,
learning. I'm
yes,
learning.
yeah. See, I lay out bare gill. I have no reserves. Fuck you if you don't like it, and screw you if you come at me because I'm going to hold my ground. So it's for my development. It's for my understanding and broadening of self. And your opinion does not apply. And once you take that perspective, then what other people do, say, or the ridicule and disruption, you can pick and choose your battles then. And they become victims to you because they've done set their measure.
Here's where it gets hard. I understand the value of that kind of detachment, but I get hurt because I care. If I didn't care as much as I did, it would protect me from a lot of the hurt. So my inability to not care or my decision to care is that's like the price I pay for that ability to care or that inability not to care because I don't know if I could turn it off. Like caring just happens. I don't will myself to care.
Right.
And so to the
And
extent that you care, it makes it harder to like have that detachment and not get hurt.
that type of caring is an amplification of nurturing. Are you aware of that?
No, because I don't think of myself as a very nurturing person at all.
Well,
That's what
anyone
we were
who
talking about today
cares,
is like as that being one of the more feminine qualities that men have a hard time accessing. But if caring is a form of that, I guess that is one thing I can do.
yeah, you're overcompensating the nurturing part of the feminine aspect of self, and that's become a comfort for you because I guess you've done it for a while, as from
I've
best I
always
can
done it.
see.
I've never known how. Like even growing up, I cared about animals. I cared about the people around me. I cared about my sibling. I even cared at one point when I was younger. I thought I was hurting the grass when I stepped on it. Like I even cared about plants and grass and wanted to see them protected and not hurt.
Well, let's get really real here for a second. In your relationships, would you consider yourself to be a bottom?
Um, uh, Physically, I'm not going to answer. Like bedroom wise, I'm not going to answer. But do you mean like psychologically?
I'm talking in your interactions with your partner.
I would rather keep the fifth on that.
Not
Yeah, just
sexual.
because I'm a
I'm not talking.
Scorpio and I like to keep all that private.
Yeah,
I
I'm
very
not
much
talking
compartmentalize.
sexual.
Oh, okay. Um, I don't know if this answers your question, but I'll explain it like this. I usually end up when things go south in a relationship, I usually end up feeling like the man role, and the boyfriend is being the emotional woman that I don't understand because they're in their feelings and I don't understand. And it feels like I'm a man in a relationship with a woman. But that's only when the relationship starts to break down. When they're going healthy, it's really hard to tell.
Right, right. So that seems to be a stable point for you while you're in a relationship. You can identify your position, and are you maybe possibly projecting upon whoever it is that you happen to be with at that time uh, your interpretation of them, your personification of them, or what you desire them to be?
I think in some cases yes, and I think like in the early stages for sure. And then as you that's one of the things that hurts so much because as you gain experience of them, you readjust your ideals or your illusions that you have, and they get replaced with the reality of what that person actually is. And then if they don't, if there's too big of a gap, then you're left like, well, is this the person I even want to be with anymore? Is this who's the person that I thought I was dating in the beginning? If it was not, if that was all like my imagination of them. But I
So
think
that's
it starts
after
that way.
you.
It starts that with that projecting your ideals and your hopes and all of your past, like that transference from your past relationships, which come up ultimately from your parents and your childhood.
Right. I call that the honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
That's whenever you're personifying yourself and they're personifying themselves, and you're trying to experience each other to the fullest. And then once you get past that, the reality of that person starts to manifest itself.
Yes. And sometimes the reality, I've had it where the reality was even better, like it enhanced that initial, like imagination of the person before you get to know them. So sometimes the getting to know them just deepens that, and it's a very good positive thing. But sometimes it contrasts or it jars with that initial experience, and then you have that cognitive dissonance, and you have to figure out what's going on here and what do I want now as a result.
I would say then that the ones that still held value after the honeymoon stage were the more healthy relationships that you've been in. That's just speculation.
Yeah, no, you would be right. I just those are also the more rare, as you could probably guess. But yeah, you're right. Like every friendship, every relationship, every connection goes through a test, or it has the potential to go through a test because you can keep relationships at kind of a surface level coasting for a while if there's no challenge or conflict or there's nothing to kind of test, no adversity. But once that happens, that's where the real test of the relationship is to me.
Got you. Got you.
And that's why
Um,
I don't think you ever really know someone till you live with them. Like that, I've had people I've been friends with for like 10, 20 years, and then when I live with them, I have a completely different experience. Like, because I get to see every little corner of them that I didn't when we just hang out as friends. And that's to me where you get the full picture of who a person really is. And also when they're exercising power, watching
well,
what they do with power.
remember that on social media, 99.99% of the people are not being genuine.
Or not what?
Being genuine.
That just seems like so much missed opportunity and wasted potential.
It is. It is. But YouTube is like being able to express yourself in a dream with an audience. You can be anybody you want to be, and you can personify yourself any way you want to, but you're not most, like I said, 99.99% aren't able to get past their humility, masculinity, exaggerated feminine, or their shame to be directly truthful about who and what they are.
Yeah, to the extent that they even know it, but you pay a price. Steve and I talked today about like being vulnerable and men opening up and stuff, but there's still a risk. You pay a price when you open up too much and make yourself vulnerable. And I can see why people might have good reasons for hesitating or resisting that, because it does come. I think it does come with some risk, especially if you're going to do it on YouTube or live
Well,
on the internet.
the interesting thing that I found is I, I expose my genuine self. I am what you get, and what you get is what I am. You know, all the way from my son being up on Murder One to, the psychological processes that I take. But if anybody was to try and humiliate or shame me on that, that just shows the measure of them
Yeah.
and their lack of maturity, their lack of development, and it shows me exactly who and what I'm dealing with as another person projects themselves. And that's their shortcoming, not yours. And you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, you're right. That that's been my experience too. Um,
And when you're dealing with people in real life, if they aren't willing to accept your trauma as well as your more exuberant side, then fuck them. They aren't worth it because they don't love the whole you. They just love the you that benefits them.
yeah. It's a lonely life.
It is. It is. And to find somebody who truly can relate and unconditionally, without measure, love you, I'm fortunate enough. I have a. It's not a girlfriend. It's not a friend. She's psychologically trained, and she is more than what definition can describe. I'm a very lucky individual on that. You know, that's a very rare find in another person.
Hmm.
But it's not identified by any status. We don't consider ourselves anything more than just two souls that happen to be able to share experiences that are beneficial, beautiful, sometimes sharing experiences that are, healing or hurts and pains that need to be expressed. And, you need someone to soundboard it without prejudice. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. So I know in my physical life, I have absolute wonderful support in this person. So what people on YouTube say, unless you want to pick a fight with me, absolutely means shit. Unless you have something to offer of intellectual development, broadening of mind, social tools, stuff like that.
Hmm. Yep, same here. It's there's a learning curve. I'm on it. I'm
Well,
still
Jeff,
on it.
I just want you to know that, if there's anything that, because I am open, I'm a very open person that would assist, benefit, or if you have anything that you would like to, even address, I can give you my personal contact, or we can address it on your channel. I mean, I've allowed myself to be vulnerable so that I could fortify myself with the understanding that I can measure a person by their demeanor and their approach to me.
Are you on Discord?
Yeah, through Magnetar Starheart, I'm on another person's Discord, and he has a community there, and I work through him. But I also have a private email, which is Axis Ratblood with two T's at gmail.com. Just the same as the name that's on my channel.
Okay, right. Like the music group.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I got it. It shows up. All right.
Yeah, and anytime, Jeff. I mean, I'm not going to point fingers because I'd be pointing fingers at myself. You know, I I had to go through so much development and surrender to get rid of things that were affecting people around me, and I wasn't showing up as being present in true nature. I was showing up as the pain, the hurt, and the disillusionment.
Did you first become aware of that because of the effect you saw it having on the people around you? Like that was that your first little wake up call?
No, like I said, it was after my divorce. We had two children, and we had a poly relationship. We had a girlfriend, but my wife left me and the girlfriend for another girl, and there was a division in the children. She took the girl, I took the boy. She went with the girl that she had been seeing behind our back. Our poly girlfriend went to college, and I was left with a handful of shit to sort through. And that's whenever I realized I was burying all this pain, regressed hurt, and trauma, and I was trying to alleviate it through holding together something that I wasn't going to be able to.
Jess, it must have went okay. I've been a few times. Nothing out of the ordinary, so I guess it went okay. Um, thanks for asking. Yeah. Well, thanks, Axis.
It's not a problem, man. I
Thanks.
appreciate you and your channel, and I appreciate you allowing me time to come up here and, express myself.
Well, you too. I appreciate you as well. I really do.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll catch you later, man.
Okay. Thank you. I've been sitting with a lot of emotion lately, and I'm doing the check into your body thing, and there's just my body is not at rest, at ease, at peace. Um, like I said, these things happen because you care. If you could not care, you could avoid all of these messy entanglements. I get unless if someone else wants to come up. I know Lanza was going to that island. I kind of wanted to see that. Let me see how. Maybe I could keep it going a little bit longer to see if he makes it out there. I tell you what, I'll go get a refill. Maybe try to find a video to play. Is anybody streaming? Who can I risk my channel with? Nobody really, unless y'all want to watch I-Fi's video game. Here, watch this clip of P.F. Jung. I was watching it earlier today. Um, you probably won't make it through the whole thing because I'm only be gone a minute or so. But it's something to watch because I do have a point I want to make about it. So I'll leave you with this for just a second.
Part of the reason that I am as ironic as I am is because there's certainly a part of me that recognizes that, a lot of people, like as soon as you say the word philosophy, for a lot of people that's not accessible because they just they're not interested in it. They just don't have the capability to kind of understand a lot of stuff. And I think it's really annoying and strange when people take pride in the distance they can put between themselves and others, like intellectually. Like, I'm very much into philosophy. It's like, okay, even to the average person who's not even that judgmental, it's just like, okay, well, okay, you're now in this ivory tower, sort of right off the bat, and it's like, I think obviously, I think philosophy is very valuable, and I spend most of my time philosophizing, I guess, engaged in that kind of thinking. But I think there's a responsibility that people who are capable of, kind of immersing themselves in these ideas to not think that makes them better than people, which I certainly used to think as a defense mechanism, in junior high, and the reason I don't have as many friends or that other people is because I'm smarter than these kids. I care about politics. I'm in 6th grade. I care about politics. These losers care about sports,
Yeah.
which is what I actually, that was the mindset. And it's like,
Yeah.
And so in part it's a attack on a part of me that I recognize as, foolish and insecure. But there also is an aspect of like, well, you also shouldn't feel you shouldn't feel ashamed for being interested in ideas. That's another problem that people have. Is like, well, I don't even want to bring up like interesting things I'm interested in because other people will be like, oh, shut up, here you go, politics again, which certainly happened to me as well. So I don't know. I think you can strike a proper balance, I would say.
That's fair.
Yeah, and part of Seth and I's disagreement regarding philosophy, not that it's not interesting, and I think grounding your worldview or discussing kind of where your fundamental beliefs stem from is important.
Okay, hopefully that wasn't too dry and philosophy-y. You'll do. Oh, okay. So you're not going out to the island today. All right. I'll probably wrap it up then. The point I wanted to make about, because I'm a philosophy nerd. I've been in love with philosophy since I was a teenager. I don't think like when I tell people I have an interest in philosophy or I like philosophy, that's one of my hobbies. I never imagine that I'm saying that I'm better than them or that it would alienate people. To me, it's like any other hobby, like saying, oh, I'm into board games or, oh, I like computers or coding or something. I don't, the stigma he's describing or the alienation effect that it has, I'm not saying he's wrong. That is just definitely not in my head when I say the word. I remember when my first job in Vegas, it was at one of the big call centers, and we had to do like these 6 weeks of training and stuff. So it was like a little classroom. And the first day, we got to meet our class, and they did these little ice breaking exercises and team building activities. And one of them was you had to match with a partner and ask each other a series of questions. And I was with this. She was like middle aged lady, motherly housewife type lady, and one of the questions was, what book do you currently have on your bedside stand? And I happened to be reading, it was some essays on Shakespeare. It was Shakespearean criticism that had just been released, and I was very into it, and I kept it by my bed and I was reading it. And I told her, I said, Shakespeare, it's a book on Shakespeare. And she said, this is what she said. She goes, oh, so you're one of those people. I thought that was I didn't know how to react. I never knew reading Shakespeare as being a certain type of like I'm of those people because I have a book about Shakespeare next to my bed. I knew she was trying to say something. I knew it had to do with giftedness or nerdiness or intellect or something, and kind of what that video was saying about philosophy. Like, I don't know how the ordinary person takes these things, but I just want to make the point that that is definitely not what's going on in my head when I talk. I don't think it's not ego at all. It's not to make a statement about how smart I think I am or how much better or anything. Philip, I think I get philosophical all the time, especially when like talking politics. I try to break down into the philosophical dynamics beneath it all and the different philosophical orientations. I'm always talking about naturalism versus the metaphysical orientation, which the more spiritually oriented people have. So it does, and I'm constantly talking about logic and things making sense, like how to use logic and critical thinking, the Socratic dialogue, the Socratic method to make things make sense and help find truth. Philosophy is just the art of thinking well, really, and ideas, the ideas that you think well about. And for the most part, grew up in ancient Greece, about 500-ish BC. Originally in Ionia, but then mostly centralized around Athens. That's where Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they had the philosophical schools. And those philosophers were the ones that would walk around, or Socrates anyway. They would just walk, like, instead of YouTube, they had the public square, the agora. The space where people would just hang out in public and talk and have conversations, and the philosophers would hang out there and ask people different questions about the meaning of justice or love or friendship, and they would explore it. And well, let's explore more about that. You think it's this? Let's examine that. Why do you think it's this? Well, what about this instead? What do you think about this perspective, etc. Um, so it's thinking. It's talking out ideas, thinking about ideas, reading and writing about ideas. Yes, and Alexander the Great was a pupil of Aristotle. That was pretty much the end of Greece and the end of Greek philosophy until it passed over into Hellenism. Um, all right, well, I guess I'll wrap up. Lanza, I do. If you end up on the island another day, just let us know, and you could do some footage, some man on the ground, man ground cam, whatever it's called. Hey, Zach, how you doing? Yeah, I'm an idea geek. I love ideas. Like they're reading a philosophy essay is like reading a an action novel to me. Like watching how one idea starts and how it changes over the time, and then it'll meet other ideas and it'll clash, and some of the ideas will displace like the drama of how ideas interplay with each other throughout history. And then another thinker will come along and do something original and unique with the ideas, and that will change the way they're received from that point forward, etc. Just I could study that all day long, all the little threads throughout time. I don't know. I'm just explaining ideas in general, I guess. I could go into Plato and his concept of an idea as being a metaphysical concept, like with immaterial existence. It exists mentally in the mind, but there's a transcendent realm that it existed that the mind accesses it through. Versus Aristotle, um, where his ideas were more immanent in nature. They were a part of nature and kind of emerged from what we see in nature. Um, Potential night flight. Is that, are you talking about later tonight, a stream? Is that what we're calling them now? Yeah, I'll probably do, I could do a night flight, maybe. If I do a nap first, if I get my nap flight, we could do a night flight. Hey, Jack, patterns. Yeah. I naturally notice patterns, and not all patterns, but just the ones that happen to catch my attention. And so I've been fascinated with patterns my whole life. That might be a Spurg thing too, especially social patterns, intellectual patterns, artistic patterns, like patterns from one, like works of literature to others, how different authors use patterns from past authors, or music. You could see the like the patterns change from one musical style to another as it develops through history. Cinema, all that stuff. Art is just, you could endless amount of patterns to study the rest of your life just from studying art, even just one medium of art. Oh, for little soups. I, I'm gonna tell you. I don't know if this will make sense to anybody but me, but the most erotic thing I have ever read. This is probably how much of a Spurg I am. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, has an essay called Fate, F-A-T-E. It's in his book, The Conduct of Life. I don't know why. It's not about sex at all. Man, that thing just touches me in very deep places, on a very deep level. Deep down inside. Jack, are you on Discord? I was actually interested in talking to you off stream about some of the, just kind of comparing notes about some of the stuff going on. I have more questions than answers, and you seem to be involved in some of it, or in the know anyway. I'm trying to keep it separate from the stream. But do you want to come up and talk about a topic? Like, I enjoy our chats. I did not see the Joker. The Here, let me try to find you. Maybe we can chat on Discord one day soon. Um, How do I find a person? Let's see. All right, all right, it said successfully sent. Um, I was Jess. I hardly got any sleep last night. I got like an hour or two here and there, and so I was up at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna stream." Philip does have a channel. I've shared it before. And by the way, most panelists that appear on my show, if you check the channel title or sometimes the description, I usually put their channels in there if you need to find them. Um, I had Philip somewhere. Emerson Moore. Thoreau is like a little offshoot of Emerson, but really Emerson for me. Emerson and Whitman. A pond and yeah, I didn't read. See, I have high trust with you because I don't fully read your comments before I post them. I'm like, oh, Daniel's saying something. Let me post it. It's bound to be interesting. And then sometimes I read to the end and I snatch him away from the screen real quick, if you notice. Oh God, hiking. I can it recharges me for sure. Like if there's like one single thing I could do just instantly to improve my mental health is going to hike. Like a real hike out in the woods for a day, take a day, go out in the mountains. That kind of hike. But being out in nature, in the desert, in the wilderness. I've told my story on here before about when I lost Mike and I was in deep, deep, deep grief. We went on a camping trip. My friends talked me into going on a camping trip to Death Valley in California. It was my first time really being around people and camping or anything, and I wasn't sure what to expect. And being out in the desert like that, we went on that playa, and they have that like pile of rocks, and we laid on it. It was real spiritual. That's when I got my first little moment of peace, like mental peace and rest, where I could the healing could start. And from that point forward, I kept spending more and more time out in the desert. I kept camping more, hiking, going on excursions every chance I got. My friends would swing by the house if they were camping and pick me up because they knew how much I just wanted to be out in the wilderness. And it was the closest to like spirituality or a spiritual experience I've had. Just being out in that desert, away from people, civilization, just you and, I mean, you had your friends with you, but you and the cosmos and that vast open space and that desert silence and crispness. And I don't know, it just, if we access the spirit through the body or spirituality through the body, the desert really unlocked something. I'm going to use the word spiritual, even though I'm more secular. It unlocked something very close to what it sounds like people describe as spiritual. Not Spagoo. Oh, thank you, Daniel. I keep forgetting. There's multiple mics around. Jack, do you want to come up and talk about like a general topic about mental health or philosophy or the world or something? If not, we can just I'm pretty available, so whenever it's good for you, just hit me up on Discord and let me know that you have some time to chat, and we can talk. Yeah, talk about humility. And I think I said this earlier today. We were talking about it, but some of the few little moments that I can reach it, like it's like me out in nature under the stars, and you like realize your actual place in the universe, like your actual significance is not very however however big you think it is in your own mind. And so that kind of stuff, nature, I guess, and the cosmos, I guess, does have something of a humbling power, or can. There's many trails. I'm right by the Cascades. Like I could see the mountains from my window. But the thing is, finding the people to, because I have one strict rule I've always stuck by it, especially me with my ADHD spurg ass. I do not hike alone. I will not go on a trail by myself. That's just asking for trouble. And so it's finding a person or people to hike with, and that is an art around here. Because if you get stuck on the trail with the wrong people, it's worse than being stuck on a panel all day long that you can't get off of with the wrong people. Oh, Jess, have you been camping? You could certainly try it. It is absolutely what there's three things that made the difference for me. Two physical, tangible things. Um, I wasn't eating. My appetite had completely shut down, and when I finally started to get real food, actual nutrition, fresh meat, fresh bread, spinach, fresh blueberries, walnuts, my body was like within a day I could feel the change not only in my body but mentally, and being out in the desert, that camping trip to Death Valley, and then all the time in the desert after that I spent out. And then the third factor was the community that I had built up to that point. This it was a really tight group of people that like to camp and hike together, and they were just really there when I needed a community the most. And that was one of the things that, as an adult, that highlighted for me the power of community. I was just overwhelmed and awed by the outpouring of support. Because after I lost Mike, I had nobody in Vegas. Like we were a team, and it was me by myself in Vegas. I didn't have. We were kind of hermits, and I had a few close friends, and they were supportive. But to have this large community of people just be there at a time when I needed people the most, that was the third thing that made the biggest difference. All right, I think I will wrap up, unless Jack wants to come on, but we can also do it another day. And Jack, if you ever want to have a chat, me and you on stream, and you want to, oh, he's here. He is. Never mind, Mr. Talcott.
I hope this is okay because
Yeah.
I know you've been running a while, and it sounds like you could use a nap, but
No, I think it's okay. I mean, this is what I want to do. This is my life's mission. So the more I
well,
do it, the better.
I love it. I'd finished my stream and I went and got some. I was listening while I was getting something to eat, and I love your perspectives, my friend. Your your views on philosophy and what you described, what I heard from you, is your fascination and your joy seeing the connections and the patterns on how ideas build. And then, like you said, you could study even just one method of art in the development and see how it grows. Life is truly fascinating when we find things we enjoy learning.
It really is. I'm never bored. Boredom is not something I really struggle with. There's so many things from my mind to get involved in to keep it occupied.
Good for you. Boredom is, I used to experience boredom quite a bit, and I used booze and video games, television. I used all sorts of things to distract me from boredom. It's a symptom of our arrogance.
Talk to me about that.
It's something I've been considering recently. Pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance keeps us thinking we already know things we don't. And then we forget to spend time learning. And life is all about learning and developing and growing from the wisdom of those who came before us.
How do it's knowing when you don't know something, like, because we think we know, because we often do. Our knowledge works, it gets through the day, but then we don't know the limits of it and where it ends, and so we overestimate. um and then the Greeks had the concept of hubris, that was a danger. Like, even the Greeks recognized the danger of too much pride, or don't get too close to the gods. Don't put yourself too much on the level of the gods, because they're gonna make sure your ass gets knocked down. Put back in your place.
I think that's what's happening on the world stage. By natural courses, pride has grown in people. And think about this. I mean, the Bible is the last place I turned, and I'm not promoting any religion or church, but there's a lot of truth in what was shared there. We're not supposed to judge. The prideful think they know enough to judge and to punish others. But what we do when we judge others, when we form a label or opinion about someone, even if it's ourselves, we create a limitation on what we allow ourselves to learn.
Wait, say that last part
When we
again.
put a label or a definition or a meaning on something, we've limited ourselves as though we already know, and we don't learn more about what we
Oh
learn.
yeah. It's a journey. Um,
It's life. It's
we're
supposed
not
to be
perfect being. I think we're like Lego towers. We keep building up, but
Yep.
then we tear it down back. But there's like this Lego base that we always keep coming back to. We have to keep building it up into the new structure, the new tower, and then it gets torn down by something, some crisis or something. We have to keep building it up again.
That's the story of our lives. Until we find the character we're comfortable with, the structure that stands. And this is where aligning ourselves with the truth.
That's what I want to talk to you about. You mean like reality truth, correspondent truth, or some kind of internal truth?
Both.
You talked before a lot about no secrets and living without truth or transparent. What does that mean exactly, like in practical terms?
Being willing to be perfectly honest. Humbling ourselves to when we don't know, and trying to be accurate with our words. Perfect honesty, it's a challenge because the truth comes in many different forms. So
Sometimes all from the same person.
right, that's the thing. Until people align their minds and hearts and become humble and willing to be open and honest, they're living out a character, right? They're missing the point. The point of life is to learn from each other, and we learn moment by moment by moment by what we pay attention to, and then later what we reflect on, what we consider.
Yes, and we're not always in control of what catches our attention in the initial
That
moment, but I remember yesterday you said something about a learning moment or a possible learning moment or growth moment that I
what
might be facing.
all of us. You did I say you specifically? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, with the experience between Moose and the other panel members, panel
Yeah.
creators. It's a learning experience. You get to discover more about you. If I can offer this, a lesson I've learned and I shared recently with someone else. When people let us down or when we let ourselves down, um, compassion and forgiveness, those two things allow us to find our honest boundaries. Compassion and forgiveness allows us to find our honest boundaries, what we will and will not accept.
How? How to forgive? How do you find that compassion? How do you forgive and find that? Because it's hard, and it's compassion for the other person or forgiveness for what was done to you, but it's for yourself too, for getting yourself in that situation. And I'm harder on me than on the person.
That's how I am. How
But
I think
I'm open to what you're saying if it's you learn your boundaries because I think I'm pretty good at knowing my boundaries without the forgiveness, but I'm interested in what this forgiveness will clarify boundary wise.
where I'm pointing with this, if we become if we align with the spirit of compassion, that means we can understand the other person. And if we can understand the other person and perhaps their perspective, even if it was a mistaken perspective, even if it was a real poor perspective, if we can understand it, we can forgive it. And if we can forgive, then we can also see what is it within me that was hurt? Where is my weakness that I felt the reason to hold unforgiveness?
What if you can't? Because you said if you have compassion, then you can understand. But what if you can't understand because it's not making like it's not just not logically adding up. It's not that you're not trying to understand, but there's too much things not connecting. And so, how do you maintain compassion? I guess in the face of confusion or uncertainty, where you're not really sure what what is real and what's not.
Well, this kind of ties into what you might have been saying with your experience going hiking, right? Uh, Learning to trust in yourself. That's the key. That's what we're all here to do. And we don't trust ourselves honestly and completely if we're just finding blame. And that's why this practice of forgiveness, if we can look at every interaction, every experience as an opportunity to learn something. Your question was, how do you forgive when it's just there is no acceptable logical explanation for
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
Where I find my comfort is unfortunately, I have to accept evil exists and people do things that make no logical or reasonable sense. People and myself, I've acted out of emotion, not to the point of others, not to the disgusting accusations that some people have had about me. But
I've heard a few. I don't even know what they are. I'm proud to say
oh,
I don't
good.
listen to such talk.
That's why I admire you so much, Jeff. You are on your own path. And here, if I can offer you what I hope to do with you and others, I hope to remind you, offer you confirmation for your own self confidence to grow. Because, dude, you've got a great mind and your heart of care. You've been, how about if these wounds of the past were simply preparation, tests for you to discover how strong you are, how wise you are? I mean, that's one of my theories, one of the things I found peace in myself with, that I lost people in my life. I lost the connections and the people where I found my true reason for being. I lost them so that I could discover how strong I am.
You're making too much sense, Jack.
The truth does.
So far. Um, Man, just today alone, I talked with Steve this morning. I talked with Axis earlier. I talked with you. I am getting so much like I'm getting exactly the thing I needed without really knowing what I needed or knowing how to ask for it. I've been getting it all day long.
What a
And I've
blessing.
been saying how I don't have men in my life that I get that from. Like my support system is women and gay men, and I've had 3 men today come on this show and give me some very, very valuable. Um, God, all right.
Everything happens at the perfect time, Jeff. Hey, if you want to step out and reflect, I can give space. We can hold space. We can continue whatever you want, my friend.
I don't know. I'm kind of liking your lead right now. I don't.
Then let's roll with it.
Okay.
One of the things I offered, I thought you were pointing at this, but I was reminded. It's through ideas. And brother, I'm learning to trust that individually, at least in my experience, I find the answers I need when I'm not really looking for them as much, and when I'm paying attention, when I'm ready, they show up. And I think that's what you're describing. You've been looking for this, maybe, and it's finally being shown to you. And maybe this is what I think. I think we do get rewarded when we're willing to do the work. You've been working on yourself for quite a while, my brother. I've heard some of your testimonies. Those are beautiful.
Jack, we're having a breakthrough here. I want to let you know what's happening right now.
Please.
Humility. Y'all are seeing it in action, and I'll tell you why. I thought I knew. I thought I had a good sense of my social surroundings and what was going on. I was pretty confident. And this experience is teaching me that I didn't. And I'm seeing that as a bad thing. But that's actually the beginning of, like, this is humility. Me thinking that I knew and finding out that I didn't. It's disintegrative. It's disruptive. It's unsettling. But it's also me reaching the limits of what I thought my knowledge were. So this is that humility that I was looking for. Because what I thought was going on is not at all what was going on. And so now I'm in that state of I don't know. I don't know reality right now. I have to be very cautious and humble. Not cocky. Let's just call it confirmation bias. I was continuing to see what I thought I was seeing from the beginning. I was continuing to see without noticing that that's not what it was.
Jeff, can I thank you? I want to thank you. Please. What you just did, what you've been doing, what I tuned in for, is exactly what I mentioned on my live stream. My faith is that we've all been giving opportunities to learn lessons, and it's through our testimonies, our honest, humble revealing of what we've experienced or what we are experiencing. That's actually encouragement and lessons for others. It's a gift. And what you're describing, brother, thank you for being open. I mean, I know that feeling well, but here's the beauty. Things get to change. And change, man. Change from the old ways. Holy cows, the freedom and the confidence to explore. Jeff,
What do I do with the humility now that I have it? Because I can already feel it settling back into that. I don't want to lose this moment. Like, so once you've reached that like little glimmer of humility, what do you do to not lose it or keep it going?
Make a mental imprint, right, to reflect on later, and do mental exercise. Compare that mental imprint of humility to confidence, right? Because both are required.
Right. Okay. Now
And
that I have it, keep going back to it
yep,
and comparing it, so I'll see I'll see. Okay. Yes. In fact, I'm gonna go do that when we get off of here while it's fresh. Well, I hope the rest of you watch it are paying attention. Jack has some skills of his own, so
thank you.
that was very helpful.
Hey,
You might even say transformative.
new ideas. New ideas can transform us. This is my testimony from overcoming the alcohol addiction. When I sat in the rooms and I started learning the 12 steps and the messages that was being taught in the rooms of AA, I was like, there's so many people I know who need to learn these lessons, but they're not addicts like I was, right? Those new ideas, those ideas that were different than what I knew before, they helped me transform me, how I saw me, and how I saw the world. And by the blessings of the universe, I call it God, right? I've been allowed to learn a lot. So, Jeff, thank you. I love you, brother.
How, that's the L word. Here, I'll do this.
Whatever's comfortable with you,
If I
man.
can
I
make it.
respect
This is a
you.
heart. Um, how many years do you have?
2016.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
2016. I thought you said
eight,
26. Still,
no,
that's like
8
coming up
years.
on 10 years.
8,
8
yeah,
years.
almost. Yeah. And
Very impressive.
it's,
Very commendable.
thank you. I've been blessed, but I know it's for a purpose. And I had to make some choices. I made a lot of scary choices, those feelings of unsettling of what do I do now that I don't know? What does that mean for me? I've been through that many, many times over the past several years. So it's by the grace of forces beyond us that we get to be alive and awake every day. But
That's
be proud of who you are, Jeff. I love the man you present.
well, I'm gonna try to return the favor and just put this out there. Not that your vision isn't a noble and admirable one, but maybe what you think your mission is not really what your actual mission is, and you kind of have some assumption, like thinking you know your mission, and you might find out that it's something different.
You're absolutely right. I actually experienced that when I lost my career at the Postal Service. I thought my purpose was to be a longtime union leader. If you do our ants, he gets
Sorry,
that.
it's one of our trolls.
That's awesome, dude.
A union leader, like
I was a union president for
oh, the postal,
at the
the
post office.
Napas or whatever it's called. The,
Ours was the American Postal Workers Union.
oh, they have more than one. Because I have postmasters in my family, and they were always going to those conventions. They'd bring back the swag from it.
Yep,
I remember that.
very
Yeah,
cool. Well, if it was NAPAS or NAPS, then they were in the supervisory
I think
area,
it was Napas.
which
Yeah,
is
they were like postmasters.
postmasters. Yeah. For so at the it's the post office is crazy, man. It's allegedly, it's quasi government, and it's allegedly by its own books, it's supposed to be a model employer representing both corporate and government. And it is such a dysfunctional,
Oh,
broken place. There's I think it was 5 different unions between the management associations. There's the National Association of Letter Carriers. There's the Rural Carriers Association. There's the National Mail Handlers Union. And then there's what I was, the American Postal Workers Union. So there's all
Is that
these.
the mailmen that deliver?
They're a different one.
Oh,
I represented clerks and maintenance and custodial. So it was everything from the folks sorting the mail on the machines at night to the electronic technicians keeping the machines running to the clerks at the post office sorting the mail to the carriers, the guys selling stamps. I represented the mechanics who kept the vehicles going. Our operation for what I was representing was 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. I was either at work or on call, and on call at work. So it was an interesting experience, even though it was a small local, just 3 to a little over 300 people is all.
pretty
But
big. Do you hang on, I lost it. Oh well, it'll have to come back. Hey Steve, what's up? Um, oh, is that the only entity of its kind where it's like this government corporate hybrid model?
I believe so, because all the other agencies that I'm aware of are funded through taxes. The
They're either
United
like
States,
all government or they're a private company, but the post office is this like government company or something.
it's allegedly a government. It's supposed to be run like a private business. In other words, no tax dollars go to the post office. It's pays the employees and all the operations through the sale of postage. But years ago, under the Bush administration, there was a postal reorganization, postal transformation act. I forget the names of it now, but they passed this legislation that buried the postal service in debt, like 75 bill. They were to pre-fund 75 years worth of future retirement benefits. Okay, so it was right before the 2008 economic change, and Congress placed this huge funding liability on the postal service that no other private organization has, no other government agency has, but they were worried of the postal service turning a profit. So they siphoned out billions of dollars into the U.S. Treasury to be spent however the hell they want. Yeah, it's guaranteed through the Constitution and the only one that has to pay for itself. The Postal Service has an interesting part of American history and its development, and maybe its control. I don't know, but according to Wizard, at least.
Like in what's it, The Crying of Lot 49, that Thomas Pynchon novel where there's a secret postal service conspiracy theory that you never know if it's true or not, but in the book you're not maybe it is real.
Who knows?
There was supposedly like an underground postal service like back in Europe in the was it there? Um, let me Thurn in Texas.
I don't know.
A private postal service. It was the successor to the Imperial Reich Post of the Holy Roman Empire. So it's like a back in the day, like the 1800s.
Interesting.
An email, which would be yeah. Why didn't the post service give everybody emails? They had the chance to be leaders in the new technological medium.
Postal Service did a lot of crazy things. signed contracts with the competitors, FedEx, UPS, paying, basically bailed out FedEx at one point.
So FedEx delivers
Hmm.
post post office packages now. Oh,
Well, it makes sense for a long time. Actually, in the history of America, as I understand, when the commercial airline first started working, started developing, the United States Postal Service had a contract with the commercial airlines, partly to fund their development and growth, and using the commercial airlines to transport packages. But then eventually, um, eventually something happened, and the post office actually, in the early 1900s, they didn't want to be. They gave away. They gave away the right to deliver packages, and then UPS and FedEx, these private transporters, developed. And anyway, more modern day, FedEx and UPS, they've got the airlines, they got the logistics already purchased, so it makes sense rather than continuing to subsidize the commercial airline industry. The USPS subsidizes their competitors.
and it's more of that corporate, like government corporate partnership.
It's all
Like,
bullshit to get us to pay. The illusion of competition. It's all to take more money away. It's like, it's a crazy game, these people. I had this dream. I mean, if the corporations are already doing this, I know the hearts of many of the postal employees I worked with. We gave a shit. We worked hard and we cared about the jobs we did, and we wanted people to get their mail and with trust and in care. There's a lot of good people in these organizations. So, what if the bosses of these organizations stop focusing on feeding their shareholders, and actually we unite together, sharing best practices rather than profiting off the different corporations? They work together to provide the best value at the lowest price so everybody wins.
they didn't like that.
I haven't got their attention. I mean, I
Oh, I
tried to
thought you
flow a break.
you like went to DC and got to meet with one of them.
I tried it. My approach with that, I did go to DC, but what I was actually trying to do there was, he needs a master. Yes, sell me to this man. He needs a master. Who was that? That was Oh, I know who that was.
Oh, it's a quote. I thought he was talking about you.
He was a philosopher from the past. Brilliant. Sell me to this man. He needs a master. Oh, when I went to Washington D.C. with the executives of the Postal Service, my idea was to bring mindfulness into the organization.
That sounds woke and new
So
agey.
it's very effective, and there's a lot of data and evidence that supports its value.
Do the employees have enough to do already, or how does mindfulness work in the post office?
People are out of their minds, and so it's a very stress filled, fear based
Yeah.
psychology that's used in increasing productivities. So my ex- can I go can I be long-winded on this
Yeah.
story?
Yeah.
My perspective as a union guy, right? And my previous jobs had really given me a big picture idea on the regulations and the rules of the Postal Service. Not only the mail rules, but the employment laws, employment regulations, safety, all of this stuff. I was well informed. And then when I started down this path of self development, and I was working on improving myself, the first thing I noticed was what changed my inner being was my practice of my mind. And then I realized what I was finding and learning about was mindfulness, the practice of resolving the conflicts from within before they're shared out on the workroom floor. That's what I wanted to take to the whole organization. But to change the workplace climate in the whole organization, I knew this message had to go from the top down, not just at the lowest level workers, but it needed to be brought to the top so that there was a true change in direction.
But it didn't work.
The attorneys got afraid. They imagined that I was a threat to the image of the Postal Service.
Have they seen the Postal Service? Have they seen some of these people at the post office?
Jeff, this is the amazing part of my life. When my story is told and when I'm on the media or in front of Congress, dude, this shit it's unbelievable. The exact same ethics attorneys, right, who claimed that I was a criminal, those same motherfuckers, when Amazon got into, excuse my language, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh, do you get to curse here?
When a few years ago, when Amazon was first starting to get going in its labor organization, the Amazon workers, the Postal Service actually intervened itself and provided accommodations to the employer. Now, the workers did succeed in their elections in places, but they also brought charges up that showed the USPS, and again, as it's according to their rules, supposed to be a model employer, not only for corporate but government, this model employer based upon the same ethics attorney who called me a criminal, they gave the go-ahead for the Postal Service to intervene in a labor dispute on the side of the owner.
Did they did they call you a criminal, or did you actually get charged with something criminal? What was criminal about
I
anything
was
you did?
the the attorneys accused me of being wrong for my request and for having a meeting with managers. And
How's that a crime?
well, that's what I said. And since I'm a union guy, I don't give a shit if it's an attorney or a boss. I want them to support what it is they're saying. So I asked the attorney, I challenged the opinions of the attorney. I offended one lady. She went and got her boss, and her boss called me, and I pissed him off. And he says, "I'm putting an end to this today." And he hung up. And so next thing, I get a message from the plant manager that things are changing. And then the next thing I find out, the Office of the Inspector General, this federal law enforcement agency, I was being investigated. I was accused of, and according to investigation, I'm guilty of multiple counts of federal ethics violations. There's been no criminal charges. There's been no convictions. There was no evidence for them to find that opinion yet. That's what they did.
Did
So
they say what the violations were?
yep.
Oh.
They said I inappropriately used my inside advantage as a postal clerk in Spokane, Washington, to gain the email and the contact information and the attention of a senior leader in the organization. So since I was an employee who reached out to a top level official, that on itself would not be a problem. But between January and March, when I met with them, I'd been investing in my education and my experience. And I saw in the future maybe these investments could be written off as on taxes. So I paid the fees and I registered myself as a business. Now, when I met with postal executives, I had no contract. I had no product I was offering. I literally told them, "Gentlemen, I'm here to convince you to hire me for a job you didn't know you needed." And I explained to them what I saw they were doing. I saw what I was able to bring, and I was legitimately I went in there with the idea of a promotion. I took the boss's salary and I took the lowest salary and I looked at the middle and I said, maybe maybe I was going, had we reached the point where they welcome me on, it would have been an enrichment for both the organization and me and my family. But it wasn't out of selfishness. So they called me a criminal. They said since I was a business owner and an employee, I was trying to sell. And since I was trying to sell, then that would tarnish the credibility of the Postal Service. And they're so perfect. They don't make any mistakes whatsoever. These attorneys are fucking clowns, man.
But you weren't trying to sell your business, right? You wanted a position within their organization, just a promotion, or not use my services. So then, how can they make that claim if it's not accurate? Like, I mean,
You
they
see,
can make the claim, but how does that make you a criminal if they can't prove that that's what you did?
well, that's the thing. We live in a world where people imagine accusations, and then innocent
Yeah.
people are spent defending themselves against it. Well, I never got a day in court. I never got the support from any of the places I sought.
So you
So,
never had a chance to address your side, like, of it. They just that happened to me too. It's like a one side. We got this complaint. We've done this investigation. We've determined this. Here's the findings, and they never even talk. Like there was never even a process where they came to me about any of it.
I don't know where that was at the Postal Service. I know the contracts. I know my rights. I had more rights. My rights were denied. Dude, the stuff they did to me too, Jeff, they treated me like a criminal. Every time I'd
I
show
thought
up,
you were.
every
In
time
their
I
eyes, you were. You were like trying to hustle your business or something. But that's not what you were trying to do, according to you.
No, I wasn't. And then, since they saw me as a criminal, they treated me like I was dangerous.
Hmm.
They lost sight of who I am. I'm Jack, dude. I'm a fucking lovable dude. These people are out of their minds, Jeff.
They must not have seen your videos or watched your live streams.
They say they have, just like Margot says she has, just like Paul says he has. They don't pay attention. And Jeff, here's what I've learned, man. I used to be just like all of them. I used to be egoic and real sensitive and opinionated. And I was real emotional, but I didn't realize it. What this has shown me, I'm pretty sure, Jeff, I'm convinced of a God because this seems so unreal to me. Seriously.
Like sometimes life gets so crazy. That's the only possible explanation. you, you you got converted.
That's where it's at. I've said this. My failures. I have failed. The simplest conversation, people like freak out on me and run away and never seen from again. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, what happened? People get caught up in their triggers, man.
Yes, they do, and I don't know how any of us are responsible for other people's trigger. Like I don't know what we're supposed to do about it's not. I don't feel like it's my job to babysit other people's triggers. But if I'm the one constantly setting them off, that still presents a problem.
It does. And so we can ignore the problem. We can try and confront the problem, even when it's uncomfortable and when it's ugly. Honestly, what you said, we don't have the responsibility for anyone else's triggers, but we do have a responsibility to be kind to ourselves and others, to be considerate. We don't want to enable their triggers, saying it's okay and I'll just avoid it. If we can help people to see what they're doing, that is what will save lives. If people can see what they're doing wrong, they have the chance to correct it.
You don't think that some people know what they're doing? Like they know they're doing wrong. They're choosing to do it. They know they're lying. They know they're swindling people. They're consciously doing wrong and know it.
They have habits of a confused mind. They've convinced themselves that those patterns are acceptable because they've gotten away with it. I see it on some of the arrogant and prideful panels we know, right? They say, well, I didn't get convicted, so well, it doesn't mean you didn't do anything wrong, you know? Doesn't mean you didn't cause concern for someone else.
People are complicated, I guess. I know that's a platitude by now, but it still seems to be the truth.
Well, can you be comfortable with that?
I don't mind complicated. I could do complication and complexity.
Yes.
What I have struggled with is confusion. It's when people are confusing.
They're showing their confusion. The confused, they'll bring out things that just don't make sense. And when you ask them to explain themselves, they may not know how to. That's why they said things that didn't make sense.
That's a little concerning. That doesn't seem like a normal human mind.
Dude, it's normal for this time. This time, people don't communicate with each other, Jeff, like you and I have been. People don't communicate with each other, they talk at each other. Pay attention to the panels.
Oh, I do. I see it on here. I
Yeah.
have to moderate it. I see it so much.
And it's like
Yes.
no topic, just and what it is really a lot of times people are just sharing the thoughts they think because that's what they think they are.
Which is fine. I mean, I definitely want to know what people think.
Yes. That's how you get to know who they are, right?
Yeah, but then sometimes it's a chaos.
Oh, hey, yes. So Jeff, back to offering you, right? If we can get comfortable that people are complex, realize you're complex, I'm complex. We're in the process of discovering. We discover more about ourselves and the world we live in every day. All we've got to do is pay attention. So while it may be complex, I want to encourage you to get comfortable with simple as well. Because if you allow simple to be simple, it starts to reveal itself.
I was pondering that and reading Not Lost comment at the same time. Yes, yes, yes.
Hey,
You're right.
if I can add one last thing, and I'll step out if that's all right. Um, being comfortable knowing that you're complex, the world is complex, people are complex. It just means we've got a lot more to learn. And humility is the key. And so if you can get comfortable being humble with the mind open to continue learning, continue discovering, and continue transforming, then you can also get comfortable in the uncomfortable, expanding your comfort zone, pushing yourself into new experiences, new conversations, new ideas.
Don't encourage him, Stephen. No, you're no. I'm down with what you said.
All
Um,
right.
I just don't want to get fucked over. That's
Well, so what if you do? Would that be life ending?
there's gonna be problems.
But why?
I'm a Satanist. I'm not one that just takes getting fucked over lightly.
But you could be.
This is
You
not a
could be
turn the other
one.
antler.
You could be one who becomes so strong and confident. Doesn't matter. You want to fuck me over? Good for you. You showed you're not trustworthy. I'm still me. I'm still good. But don't assume people fuck us over, though, either. Okay?
But they
Sometimes,
do. Whether I assume it or not, it's It's not only a possible, but a likely, a probable outcome. Often. So
Agreed.
there's with that humility, like that openness you're talking about. There's some caution too.
There's some vulnerability for sure. But this is where, if you play the mental games, you've been betrayed before, you've been hurt before,
Hmm.
right? So you survived, you learned some lessons, you overcame. Yes, it may have been tough. Yes, it may have been miserable, even. But guess what? Back then, you didn't know what you know now. And now you know that you can shorten the experience. If someone betrays you and your heart is hurt, you know you can recover. You know how, you've done it before. So then, once we resolve in our mind some of these worries and fears, we can find a lot of them are actually kind of illogical.
But valid, I think. They have their own
There is
logic. Like
a
they're there for a reason, which is
certainly
kind of a form of logic.
everything has a reason. One thing I'm learning, we get to decide how much value we assign, right? And I assign a lot of value to my inner peace,
Hmm.
to letting things go, to rediscovering whatever I can. Because life, I spent over 40 years. Well, I don't know about the early years, but generally, I spent about 40 years fucking miserable, dude. I mean, on and on, off and on, there was periods of happiness, but no true freedom, no true fulfillment, no true joy. Now, every day, I'm filled with joy. I find I find small goals, and I like my guest the other day. I stack wins. I do small goals, and I recognize every bit of achievement I make, and I allow myself to feel good about accomplishment. I feel good about learning and growing. You should too, Jeff. You're a great guy.
Thank you, Jack.
I'm gonna bounce out, my brother. Thank you for extending the stream and sharing the space for some conversation.
You
But
too. You too. We'll have to do it again. And
we will. We'll
let's
connect
let's
again later.
talk. Yeah, let's talk soon. Okay. Take care. Well, that was a quite a nice stream. I'm really I'm really liking these guests lately. I'm liking these conversations. Keep them coming. That's what I was hoping this channel would be for. Ignoring reality is not living. Sometimes I think most people. I think the opposite is most likely true. I think people mostly ignore reality in order to live. I don't think people care much about reality, or at least don't let it stop them from living their life. I'll go with it. Blessings and love. Yes. Um, we'll do blessings and love. Blessings and love to everybody. I don't know why I resist those positive emotions like compassion and peace and love and all that. I think it's because those are the ones that seem to open me up most to getting fucked over, getting hurt. Emotions like anger and what's the other one? Anger. Um, those um, those seem to ensure that you're gonna get fucked up. People will fuck less with those emotions than with emotions like love and compassion and peace. All right. Somebody mentioned what's it called? A night flight, a late night stream. That's very possible. See how my day goes, and if not, I will definitely be here tomorrow for Monday to get the week going. Once again, thank you everybody. Uh, Plasma, Philip, Not Law, Steve. Enjoyed our chat today. I'm still it's still on my mind. I've been getting hit with a lot of stuff today from a lot of people, and I'm gonna be processing for days. Jess, Chuck, Zat, Venus, good to see you. Internet God, you show up a lot. I'm still not sure who you are. Arpo. Oh, Arpo, hi. Good to see you too. Shady Spot, Neutral Ground. Wow. Of course, Daniel Price. Okay. Take care, everyone. I'm gonna call it a day for now, and I'll see you again at the next one. Be you, do you. All right, rock on.